I used ChatGPT. I used Perplexity with the Deep6 interface today, which I know is I had to see what it was all about, friends. And I've also used Canva. And the other one I'm using quite often lately is Claude. This is another one. Everybody talks about ChatGPT. Claude takes it to another level. It's a little bit more human in its response, so I've really been playing with that lately.
Claude over ChatGPT, all right. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so today I've used ChatGPT really for content creation, brainstorming, strategic messaging. I also use Grammarly's AI feature, so I have the plugin on there, and I use it for detection of different, grammar issues. I also use the Teams transcription tool, so when I'm in meetings, I'll turn on the transcription tool, and then I'll have it spit out the transcription, and I'll say, well, I'll throw it into ChatGPT and have it give some notes for me on what happened during that meeting. I also use Lightroom, so I do a lot of photo editing in their AI feature, so if I want to remove someone or if I want a different background, those types of things. And then this is an everyday, but some of my favorites, Opus Clips. So at WSU Tech, part of what we do is we have a podcast, and so we are a small, lean team of 3, but we want to produce social clips for that. So we'll take our long-form content, put it into Opus Clips, and create short-form content. And then also 11 Labs. This is getting really nerdy, y'all. 11 Labs is a voice content creator. So it's where you can take written text and turn it into natural sounding speech. So we've used it for if we needed a quick turnaround on voiceovers for videos, if we need to. They also have some really crazy stuff where you can like dub people's voices. So I could take Smoke's voice here and then create a whole video using her voice. So it's really, really cool things.
Yeah, we won't be live next year. It'll be all.
So just yesterday I recorded audio so that my instructional design team could do that with my voice.
Oh.
And I don't remember what tool they're using. Maybe it's that one. I should know because I'm writing the checks.
Yeah.
But I mostly use Copilot and ChatGPT. I'll use a couple other things. I mean, I love the summary and transcription stuff in both Teams and Zoom. So that stuff's very useful to me. I don't do a lot of graphic design stuff for work, but I've got some personal interests where I do a lot of image creation, and I use a couple of different tools for that. I end up winding up, because I can do that in ChatGPT as along with the text description, I end up doing that there. And one of the different things I do, I really explore the edges of a lot in ChatGPT, is the ability to create dedicated GPTs that have specific focuses and stuff like that. So I have one that is my assistant director, in the Media Resources Center. I've given it a description of my organization, my leadership values, a couple other things that I want it to know whenever I ask it a question. And then I'll ask it to generate copy for something or create a presentation or start like that. And that usually gives me a good rough draft place to get started.
That's excellent. Oh, go
What
ahead.
was the graphics one you use?
Oh, I mostly use ChatGPT for graphics as well these days. It used to have to use separate tools, but ChatGPTs are the ones that are built into ChatGPT, which is DALL-E, are very good. Oh, and I've played a little bit with DeepSeek this week because how could I not? And that's interesting.
I'm gonna add one to that. Ideogram, IDEOgram, that is my favorite text-to-image generator. It can spell words correctly. Just think about that for a minute. And it does a pretty remarkable job for text-to-image generation, even for social media graphics. And one that we're using, just getting started to explore, are ways that we can have classroom, and I'm at 259, have students interact with AI in a teacher-controlled space. So we're using a tool called School AI for this, and teachers can create personalities. Like you could interview Abraham Lincoln and ask him, if you were alive today, what would you put on social media? That's cool. Which would be a very interesting conversation. It's very interesting also to remind the students this is not Abraham Lincoln you're talking to. But there are guardrails. So when a student types a response in, I as the educator can see exactly every communication with that bot. And if a student says, hey Abe, have you checked out my Twitch channel? Abe says, I bet it's great. We're talking about this today. Brings it back in onto the focus.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So John did mention that he has an assistant director. So that means you're like at least 80% more valuable than you were? Did they give you an 80% pay bump? No, they didn't do that. Just saying.
No.
That's too bad.
So is anyone here? No, there's somebody here who can fix
Are they here?
that.
No. So we just went through quite a few different tools that are available today, and every day new ones are coming out. It's important to understand a lot of the ones that professionals like we see here are using, and also play. Go out and find new things, play with them, see if they can solve some of the problems you might have, or just to have fun, have it write music for you, or sing a song, or create an image of you, or whatever you want. So, all right, we'll move on. So, can you share maybe a specific example of how AI has improved efficiency or productivity or really anything in your role?
On my end?
Let's
Yeah.
go backwards.
All right. I do a lot of, we create a lot of training and stuff like that for faculty in a lot of different ways in different contexts. My process now is usually to do something like sketch out a quick outline of what I think I ought to do, and then ask ChatGPT to generate an outline of what it thinks I ought to do, and then ChatGPT and I have an argument about what we should have been including and stuff like that. So I really like it in that first draft stage, where I want to make sure that I'm not missing obvious ideas that I should have hit. If I'm writing copy for something, I'll sometimes, especially if it's something that's low stakes, I need a memo or an email for my staff or something like that, I'll often start with a draft that I get from ChatGPT. I have degrees in writing, and so it frustrates me. It's a little bit too wordy, and I end up arguing with it. But at least that gives me a place to start. And a lot of the times that's way easier and faster than writing it from scratch, because that's just a faster pace. I also, there are tools built into AI tools that we can use in Blackboard that will speed up building instructional content a lot of the time. Blackboard has a conversation tool that works like that, so that's very cool. But a lot of the time when you're creating images for slide presentations and stuff like that, you don't need it to be a specific thing, you're just trying to capture a mood, and an AI can do that for you really quickly and give you something that doesn't require citations and stuff like that later. So that stuff's very useful.
I think the biggest use case for me for using AI is it just lets me get out of my way. Like, I live in a creative space that has demanding deadlines, and so I'm not always in that creative mindset. And so when I have to turn that on because I have a hard deadline, then I can go to my friend, I call her Chatty. So I can go to my friend Chatty and be like, hey, I need to do this. That's ChatGPT. I go to my friend and I tell her like, hey, also, I guess it's a her for me. So give yours a name. Tell them what I need to do, and it will just help me get out of my way. So whether that's from developing a look and a feel, or developing images. My brain, I'm very visual, so I'm like, I need this, but I can't tell the graphic designer this is what I want. And so when I'm able to put that into ChatGPT, then it gives me a more visual representation of that. I'm also someone who's pretty numbers averse, so having the ability to, do I have a friend who's also number averse?
I just like the phrase.
Thank you. and so having this ability to input data so that I can then get some information from that has been really valuable to me.
And I'm going to look at it through an educator lens, and I know we have several educators in the room, is there are times when I need to give high quality feedback to one of my adult learners. We do coaching cycles, so I work with teachers pretty closely. And I believe that a lot of feedback that we give people is more like high five, well done, good idea, may the force be with you, those kinds of things. But there's times when I need to really construct high quality feedback to say, hey, I noticed that your thought was you'd like to try something new. I'm going to encourage you to do that, and I want you to pull a few more ideas with it. Having the AI help me generate that high quality feedback not only saves me time, but it is improving those teachers' practice. And with that together, we are a partnership, the AI, myself, and that teacher that I'm coaching, and together we're now reimagining learning experiences with students. I am telling them straight off the top, you're no longer a teacher. You're a learning experience designer. You are going to design experiences for children that meet them at their emotional connections. Research is very clear that if children have emotional connection to the experiences in the classroom, they will retain that information for a longer period of time. You need sometimes a coach to help you design those experiences, and the AI tool can be that. Remember, the AI needs two things, just two things to be amazing: context and specifics. The more context you give it, the more specific details you provide, it will be your best friend all day long. So I'm going to summarize that with, it's helping me extend the cognitive load of things I have to do so that I can move faster. It's not replacing my work, we're just working at a much more accelerated rate.
Wow, that's an incredible amount of information. I want everybody to know that you have USD 259, so you have our K through 12 school represented here, you have college represented here, you have WSU Tech represented here. And I think what we're all telling you is we're using this, and we're teaching the young and the old to use this. And if you're not using these tools yet, it's time. And there's a lot of people in the room out here, actually, who in here actually helps other people in some sense to learn AI tools and to do AI stuff. There's a lot, so find us if you're not, and we'll help you move forward in that. Very good. All right, so how has AI changed the way that you approach problem solving?
That is an excellent question. I'm in the middle right now of designing and reimagining the Technology EdTech Conference that 259 has. And what I have found is a project like that is not a small feat to wrestle with, of how do you reimagine an entire conference experience, the whole thing. So I started with, anybody else team Apple in the room on your phone? These are my friends. If you're team Android, we still love you, it's fine. So Gemini is a great tool, I will tell you, I'm a deep fan of that as well. But ChatGPT on my phone and I have conversations in the car. I drive to Topeka, I drive to Kansas City, and I light that up and I said, I'm bouncing ideas. I need you to be a thought partner with me as we drive. So it's helping me unpack my ideas versus having to schedule, like, do you have 10 minutes we can get on a call? I have GPT with me. Then today, I took it to a ridiculous level, I will tell you. I had Perplexity going on in one browser. I had GPT going at the same time. And I've put a shortcut on my Mac that if I double tap a button, then I can talk to anything. It's transcribing my voice, right? So I would say, GPT, I need you to help me problem solve this idea of getting people to move in the conference. And then over here, Perplexity, I want you to build a schedule. And we went back and forth, and I was able to design something pretty fantastic in about an hour.
Wow.
I thought I'd have another minute.
That's sorry. Changing that.
Yeah. So I think a lot of the ways it has enabled my work is, I find it very useful, again, in the early stages of drafting and creating content and stuff like that. I find it very useful as something to review things and take a look at challenges that, or things that I may have missed and stuff like that. I've used it to do things like, I had a document that I put together that described my whole organization, which is how I created my assistant director. I took that same assistant director and then pointed it at our website for the Media Resources Center and said, hey, take a look at the website and tell me what needs to be updated on the website. And it went through and made a picking list that I could give to one of my staff to say, hey, these are the things that we need to make sure to update on the website. And that's one of those sort of lower level tasks that I need to get done and I never have time to do because there's always other stuff on my plate. And so thinking about it in that sort of assistant director, intern, whatever aide role is really useful to me. I'm not gonna turn its work over to anybody without taking a look at it, but if I can get it to churn that stuff out for me, that's gonna be huge. It will do a lot of thankless, detail-oriented work that is just not something that I have the attention span to do a lot of the time. So that level of work, that kind of stuff is really powerful for me.
Okay, so that's a lot of what we do in AI today, or how we're using the tools. I'm going to move on a little bit of challenges and ethics questions. Ethics seems to come up a lot.
Good.
Yeah.
Mandy, you want to share with us maybe a challenge that you had in implementing AI tools and how you overcame them?
Yeah, I think one of the big things is skepticism. You know, I think that's something that we deal with just from being around people that just are uninformed on the power or on the safety of using these AI tools, specifically using ChatGPT. And so when I was implementing it, especially within my team, I remember one of my colleagues saying, well, I'm never gonna use that. My brain is better than that. And I remember laughing out loud because while very competent and very, very talented, it was that level of just not realizing what the power was. And so I think we've made a lot of strides, especially in our organization on that. You know, I see as more information is coming out, as the race has begun with who's going to do it better, faster, cheaper, which I'm very excited about with the implementation of DeepSeek, because I think we're gonna see so many innovations. We're gonna see better AIs come out of this. I've definitely seen a transition in bringing it to everyone and encouraging it instead of shying away from it.
I would say the biggest ethics, there's a couple of things that we're really wrestling with in education. One is bias that comes into these tools. One of my favorite activities is to encourage teachers to have students type into a text image generator. Pick a career, pick anything. Let's say it's a fast food worker. What stereotypes are going to come up first? You put that, you fill in the blank yourself. Now let's see what the text image generator will do. Did it bring in stereotypes? Did it not? Let's pick another thing. Pick a doctor. What happens? Mm-hmm. Having those conversations and having the students realize that you can't trust all the things that come in AI. I think that's true for all. We have adults that need to have that conversation, right? So that is a big piece of teaching the critical thinking of what comes out of AI to look at it with a critical lens. The second one is data privacy. Is it okay, a great question, for me as an educator to take students' essays and have AI give high quality feedback? Great question. Will it help them be better writers? Yes. Will it help me give them ideas for suggestions of change? Yes. Is it okay to put student data into a public space? No. So we have to have those conversations. And now we're starting to see more AI tools like Microsoft Copilot. We have M365 at different parts of the district, which is an enterprise protected space. I would never go into ChatGPT and write a student's special ed program of IUP. Never would I ever do this. Inside of M365, it is protected under our district's umbrella, and I have a little bit more, I wouldn't say free reign with that, but I have a little more comfort that things are safe. And the last piece is the environmental impact. How much energy is it taking for me to do that hour that I did today, having all of those bots take all that energy? These are questions we need to wrestle with our kids too.
So in my role, we do a lot of working with faculty and helping faculty figure out how to teach with technology. We've got teams that work on this stuff. AI is obviously a very big part of that, and we have a lot of conversations around academic honesty and the challenges that it creates with students who have the ability to go out and find or get ChatGPT or Copilot or Claude or any one of the others to write an essay for them. How do we teach them in that environment? And so we spend a lot of time trying to work with faculty on how to do that. The university at this time doesn't use an AI detection suite because those are deeply flawed. They are always going to be behind, so they won't be accurate. They can't give you conclusive results the way a plagiarism detector can. They'll always just be able to say, probably this was AI writing, and they detect the wrong kinds of things too frequently. They detect English as a second language writers as AI writing. They detect, because it's less well written, content generated by cheaper AIs rather than the expensive paid AIs. So what we are detecting more often is just native speakers and affluent speakers and not actually people who are cheating. And so it's just so many different ethical problems with it. We can't really use that. So what we have to do is work with our faculty and try and build systems and assignments that let them work at several stages for those written assignments. We have this problem where we have conflated writing with critical thinking for so long we don't know how to do it otherwise, and we're going to have to be figuring that out over the next couple of years. But at Wichita State, we have the English department. My good friend Darren Frame, who runs the composition program there, we have built into freshman composition an assignment where they write with an AI in their very first assignment. And so that we can talk to them about the ethics of it and what you get and what you don't get and how to work with this and do it in an ethical way. It's a challenging assignment, it's a challenging problem. The other half of that is the challenge of developing mastery in an environment where students don't need it to do all the work themselves. One of my favorite little anecdotes or stories about this is the idea of law firms that have moved away from using junior partners to parse legal documents and do a lot of the reading and just grinding on that work that has to be done because the AI can do it faster and easier. But grinding on those documents is how those junior lawyers learn how to be senior lawyers. And so, yeah, we can get the short-term gain out of grinding of not having to grind on that work, but in 10 years we don't have somebody to step in that senior partner role, or the junior partners who didn't get that grinding don't have the same skills as the senior partners that we have now. So our challenge as educators at the university is to find ways to develop that mastery in our students without forcing them to not do it with AI, because AI is going to be there. And I have way too many talking points on that. So I'm going to, but I also spend a lot of time talking just to staff on campus about the use of AI. I'm not an AI expert in the vertical. I don't know how to build them very well or anything like that. I can dabble like the rest of us, but I'm more of a horizontal use person. I talk to faculty or to staff about how they can leverage AI and work in their areas with it. We spend a lot of time focusing on convincing people or trying to convince people to use our dedicated enterprise tools like Copilot. We have Adobe Firefly for images. We have tools built into Blackboard. But that's about it. We don't want people to be putting anything that's private or proprietary into ChatGPT because we don't have a license that protects that the way we do with Copilot. And we need to teach people to be very suspicious of free tools. And after 30 years of being taught that we don't need to read the terms and conditions, it's suddenly really important to read the terms and conditions. That these companies are claiming ownership of our content. Anything that we put into those boxes, they claim ownership of. If I write a story and I put it into Copilot, the public version of Copilot, Microsoft owns it now. I may think I own it too, but if they create a little magazine and put my story in it, they've got the right to do it. And I've got the terms and conditions to prove it. So we have to be really smart about what we use and really pay attention to what we use and know the tolerances of our audience. But I really need to shut up.
Oh, no.
Good.
Well-
Listen to John talk about.
No, go for it.
No, you're good. Go for it.
Okay, I'll just keep going. So we have a lot to get through, but I'll just take the cool questions, I guess. There's an understanding that generative AI isn't exactly accurate. We kind of talked about that a little bit. How do you make sure that the work you do is accurate and reliable?
Yeah, I think fact checking is the biggest thing. That's a non-negotiable with AI. You were talking about the bias in AI, and it's going to be biased because if your humans are biased, yes, exactly, and that's where they're pulling all of the information. So you've got to fact check it. Also, it's learning from you. So as you are developing things, if you're putting the wrong information in, it's pulling from that information. So like I put in the wrong last name for someone and then was trying to write something and it pulled that from one a long time ago. Even though I told it to correct it, it pulled that because of how I had prompted it. So fact checking is really the non-negotiable. So make sure that you're having someone else read it. Make sure that you're just doing your due diligence. Back to John.
I'll be quick on this one. I like to point out to people when they think about using any of these LLMs for search is that Google, the search engines that we're used to are databases, and they're giving us very black and white results. Mm-hmm. This site, they've got an algorithm, they're choosing how they're presenting stuff, and they have ads, it's all great, but it's very black and white. But when we ask Copilot or ChatGPT, hey, what about this? It's a puppy. It wants to make you happy. It really, really just wants a good positive click and a thumbs up from you. And it's going to get, if it doesn't have good information to give to you, it will probably make something up, or at least tweak it in some way or adjust it. So you always have to be a bit more suspicious of the information you get from those GPTs, if what you're trying to get out of it is data, than what you would in a more black and white search engine.
That was going to be my original thought. These are programmed to make you happy. That's what their job is. So don't be afraid to push back against it. I think that's something folks will look at it and say, oh, it was wrong, so I'm done. I'm not playing in this field anymore. Push back on it. Say, no, that's not correct. No, I can't have staples in my dinner, whatever it may be. And say, no, you're wrong. And it says, okay, I'll adjust this. It is designed to make you happy. But I think what's a really interesting shift that we could all be doing right now is opening multiple options of these tools. Open up Gemini, open up Claude, open up GPT and Copilot. Put them all side by side and ask it the same question. What is an AI hallucination? And see how they each respond. Gemini's going to try to be as accurate as possible because it's pulling from Google searches, right? And we are looking for validity when those searches are organized, right? More approach is going to come from Claude. Well, let me tell you about it. It's more of an approachable thing as if I were talking to a freshman in high school. ChatGPT will give you all the words it can possibly do it and put it in bullets and This is how you know kids are cheating. They don't change the format. Bullets and bullets, okay? Claude will come in a narrative format. And Copilot, which is GPT, built into that is very concise. So I think we're at the point now is there's going to be hallucinations in all of these tools, just as information that we see in social media from our loved ones is not always accurate. Shocker, right? And not that kind of a shocker.
Yeah, wait.
Right. Compare the 3, 4. See what comes out and just see, wow, this is interesting how this works and this works. It's building our collective AI literacy and discovering that not one tool is the only tool. We have to learn to work with all of them.
Excellent. And a tip might be that you could always say, prove it and show me your work. Right?
Yes.
Give me references and links and that kind of thing. Another trick might be, as you write this email for me, first of all, don't say, I hope this message
finds you well. That's another key thing that AI has written.
But just say, explain to me how come this is a good message. Like, make me smarter in how to write this or whatever you're asking me to do for you. All right, that has nothing to do with challenges and anything.
Good
All right,
answer.
thanks. How do you maintain data privacy? You started that, so go ahead.
So I will just go back that we really are pushing Microsoft Copilot across 259 and having conversations around data privacy. Does ChatGPT get my dollars? 100%. Does Ideogram get my money? Yes, it does. And Claude's about to get it too. And my husband's like, Ms. Smoke, are you sure? And I'm like, it makes me happy. Here we go. In that element, I don't think we've really had the deep conversations around data privacy because it's more of following the shiny new tool. Do you feel like the world is following a shiny new tool with AI? There's a bit to that. Now you've played with the tool, you've dabbled. Let's talk about the importance ethics to go along with that. And I point out to my staff quite often that in Copilot there's a shield with a green check mark. As long as you see that, you can put things in there that's protected in our tenant. So we're kind of focusing that way.
I think if you don't have access necessarily to Copilot or something that's enterprise-owned, one of the easy ways that I try to do that when I'm writing something and maybe there's some proprietary information, and some of you probably do this, so is using code words. I'll use puppy a lot, so if I'm writing something about it, I will make sure that I'm substituting out the words and substituting out the information when I'm using that. So that's just like a very low-level thing, but being mindful that everything that you're putting in is going somewhere, and so that's one of the ways we do it.
I will be echoing Smoke's comments on Copilot. We're also a Copilot institution. And so I spend a lot of time talking about the virtues and how our agreement with Microsoft cuts off any information from going back to feed the AI. But as you're looking at other tools, even if you're paying for that tool, it's important to read the terms and conditions and be aware Just this week, I was looking at the terms and conditions for a tool called Otter AI, which is a tool that will transcribe and summarize your meetings for you. It's a great tool, looks awesome, works really well. Their terms and conditions say that they are going to use, even if you have the paid account, they are going to use your meetings to train their AI. But they promise you that their in-house tool for sanitizing any personal information in it is very good, so you don't have to worry.
So we've never had data leaks or...
No, everything's fine. So that was at least a little bit better than another tool, Plaude, which is a thing that has a tool. Plaude is owned by a Chinese company that also makes not just the device that Plaude is, but a bunch of things back in China that are Apple Watch knockoffs and stuff like that. So they're not somebody we can do business with either. So what we find out as we look at those terms and conditions is that they're very plainly telling us, because they have to, exactly how they're taking our content. And so we need to be really careful.
Wow. Okay. We'll move on to the industry impact and maybe somewhat of the future. So what skills do you think are most important for professionals to develop alongside AI literacy?
I think curiosity and resilience are the two most indispensable things for anyone. We need to be willing to take a look at the tools, try out 4 different windows next to each other, see how it's going to work. But and resilience is one of my big hits for really any work when you're working with technology, not just AI stuff. But if you are somebody who gets flustered when something doesn't work the first time or the third time, it's going to be hard for you to succeed with this kind of technology. If you don't notice that it didn't work and you just keep trying until it does, if you just plug away, you're going to be fine, even if you don't get it right the first 10 times. And trust me, I'm the kind of guy who gets it wrong the first 12. So it's those two keys I think are going to be really important. And the curiosity helps you drive, you have your own internal drive to get out and go to LinkedIn Learning or go to any other place to get more training and more information on how to use these tools.
I think those are very important. I'd also add critical thinking, just so that you can evaluate what your output is from AI, and then ethical judgment that we talked about, so making sure that the misinformation isn't there.
And I'm going to add the next C, creativity. You have your own genius, whether you love to cook, whether you like to dream up new ways to plan a healthy regimen for running, whatever that is. Use your own creativity and learn to work with the tool. My ideas for this Tech Summit overhaul are still my ideas. I just said make it sense, because my words don't always make sense to other people. Make it make sense to them. And I think the next level for all of us is to learn to work with it, not against it. How do you learn to use it in a way to write great emails? What I love about Copilot is it will not allow you to write a nasty gram. I've tried. It can't do it.
What do you mean?
I was trying to teach a teacher how to do this, right? And so he said, we are going to be very upset about what happened on the playground today, and we're going to just tell what we think. And Copilot said, nice try, but you're never going to be mean to a parent. You need to be nice with all that. We were just seeing if it would, right? Its bias was like, no, yeah, we're going to be kind. I love the fact that there are guardrails in it to help us remember the human elements in all of these spaces. That's what really matters in the end. So I would say the piece you need to learn is, how does it help you accelerate what you're doing? Just like if you bought an e-bike. Okay, Mr. Smoke loves to ride his bike, cycling 40 miles. I look at him and I'm like, I'll see you when you get home. Then he says, Ms. Smoke, you need an e-bike. I said, no, I don't need an e-bike. He says, oh, you do. Because you still have to pedal, but you can keep up with me when I'm running at different speed. I was like, no, I'm still going to see you when you get home. It'll be fine. But it does help me go faster. I still have to put the work in, but it is an accelerator. AI jumps you to the 60 to 70% starting block instead of having to start at 0. It's not going to replace our work. It's just going to help us produce something that's at a higher level. So we need to demand higher experiences, high quality experiences. If I'm gonna have teachers work with this tool to design learning experiences that are exemplary, I better see that in our buildings. You can't be handing out worksheets anymore. Does that make sense?
Obviously a teacher. All right. So what emerging AI technologies are you most excited for in your field?
So video editing, obviously, very excited about the progress that we've made on that. Also, we were talking about this before the panel, but GPT has just released Operator, and so it's an agent within there where it can actually do things for you. So you can tell it to schedule meetings, you can tell it to order pizza for you, you can have it do actually do the thing instead of telling you what to do. Also, I was watching, I don't know, have any of you watched on Netflix the Future According to Bill Gates? Has anyone caught that yet? The first episode is about AI, and so this isn't in my field, but I guess it is because we teach healthcare programs. But the advances that are coming up in healthcare as far as detection on diseases, predicting diseases, all of those different things. There's way smarter people doing those, but I see that changing our society as a whole.
Yeah, so the healthcare thing and all that stuff made me. We all remember the stories about Amazon knowing somebody in the household is pregnant before other people do, just because people are ordering different foods and stuff like that, and then you start getting ads for diapers and stuff like that. We've had that for years. That's an AI, and it's doing prediction and stuff like that. So we've lived with that kind of technology in the past. Now we just get to interact with it a lot more directly. What the heck were we talking about?
We're talking about healthcare.
No.
And then, what are you excited about?
Right, what I'm excited
Yes.
about.
Emerging AI technologies. So
Right,
healthcare.
things that help me remember what I'm talking about. That's what I'm excited about.
Your operator can do that.
You know, I'm in the instructional space, I'm really excited about some of the ways in which it's really going to help us save students money. We have tools in Blackboard now, which is our LMS, that will allow us to generate content. And so with the faculty there as a subject matter expert, we can develop content that is equivalent to a textbook. And if we can save students the cost of textbooks by doing that, we can dramatically reduce the cost of education. And yeah, textbooks have gotten really expensive. And there's an awful lot of room for improvement in that area. And so I think we're a long way from being comfortable enough with these tools to be able to trust that sort of stuff. We're always going to need the instructors there to vet that content, but it gives then the instructor a lot of freedom to teach the course their way. They don't have to rely on a textbook for structure. So there's a lot of freedom there too, but I think that's one of the things I'm going to be really excited to see.
Oh, sorry, that's open. Right now, I'm very excited about how we're shifting to have student experiences with AI, not to send them out on, may the force be with you experience, but how do we help build young people's AI literacy so that they are ready to handle really troubling issues in our world. This last week, no matter whatever's opinion of what's going on in current events, it's been tumultuous with people. And I think more than anything, there's an opportunity now where we already are getting there, but it's getting better. What if our students in Wichita, Kansas could be talking to students in Thailand, live time with transcription happening, and saying, how do you think about this current issue? Well, what would you do differently? Oh, let's dial in some students from Denmark and see what they want to say with it as well. Oh, wait, let's ask people in France. Let's bring a whole group together of different perspectives and learn how to dialogue together. The goal for this is to build that human connection on the other end of it so that we can make real relationships with others. And then, once we make that partnership, how do we wrestle with really big issues like poverty? How do we wrestle with literacy? Those things that we need to work on. That for me is exciting. But I have to guide children. I'm like in the lead canoe and the rest of them are following behind me. But eventually I'm going to send them out into the lake and do it themselves.
Excellent. I guess I'd also point out that this is one of those leveling technologies. So no matter where you're at, what experiences or education you had, just using this one tool, ChatGPT, you could level up to almost an expert in any subject matter and almost anything that you don't have to do physically. So think about that across the planet, right? There's a lot of different countries and places where they're not where we're at in the United States. And this type of a tool can level that and bring up the whole world. So, very good.
Pretty exciting.
It's very exciting times, yes. Okay, so I would ask, the next question would be, what advice would you give to professionals who are hesitant about adopting AI tools in their work?
I think that there are competitors down the street who are doing it. And you need to be smart about it, you need to be careful about it because it can be risky, but you can't. This is the difference between horse-drawn carriages and cars. The ability to get work done, the ability to deliver quickly, and to do it consistently is going to be a game changer across the board in all industries.
One of my favorite analogies that I've heard about the integration of AI is that this is going to revolutionize the way that we do work, the way that the assembly line revolutionized the way that we make cars. And so if you think about that and what happened, if you're not getting on board, now you're going to be left behind. So once you get over that and you're on board, my next thing that I would say as far as what your first step is when you're on the AI ChatGPT train is invest in knowing how to prompt it. Invest in knowing how to work the tool to your favor, so knowing what to tell it to get the output that you need. There's tons of resources online on how to do that, but it's kind of that age-old saying, you put crap in, you get crap out. So make sure that you're investing in yourself, make sure that you learn how to utilize these tools to get your best.
And I would say, look at it from a personal lens first. What are you passionate about? I enjoy cooking, but I don't always have time to do that. And there are times that I open up my refrigerator and have you been here? You open it up like, oh, there's nothing to eat. You close it. You walk around the kitchen, come up and open again. Is there anything there? No. Has anybody been there? And eventually you're just waiting for something to show up in that space. But what I can do now is I can take a photograph of my refrigerator contents. What's in my freezer, what's in my pantry, put it into ChatGPT because it can read images and say, what can I make with these things? And I only have 10 minutes because I've got a meeting, and I only have an air fryer. Tell me what I need to do. And it will give me 7 or 8 ideas. Learning through that and telling it, oh, by the way, we have a gluten allergy in our house, or I need to make sure that this has to be incredibly delicious. If I'm gonna make a meal for Mr. Smoke, he's gonna be a little like, is this a ChatGPT dinner? Like, yes. He doesn't know how many ChatGPT dinners we have. But he's like, oh, you can make this again. And I'm like, I deleted the conversation. Let's see what we get next time. Through those experiences, oh, and then I can tell it, by the way, I need you to take all of the ingredients that I don't have for next week, and I build me a shopping list. I'm going to Whole Foods. I want you to tell me what aisle each one of these things are on. Playing with it on a personal level helps you understand how it works, and then you can move it into the workforce.
So taking pictures of whatever, having it do stuff for you is super powerful. I mean, you can do anything. You can do cars, how do I start my lawnmower, these lights on my house, whatever. So we only have a few minutes left, and I bet there's a bunch of people with questions out in the audience. So we're going to move in that direction for now.
Yeah.
Raise your hands if you have a question. Oh yes, Brandy, go ahead.
I just wondered if any of you have started putting disclaimers on things that you put out using AI?
Will you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question was, are any of us putting disclaimers on when we use AI, the stuff that we put out with it?
What I've started to do is if we build slide decks for classrooms, any images that are generated, I will cite the fact that this was created by Ideogram. And yes, what's really interesting with Perplexity is it builds those disclaimers at the bottom. It'll say these are the resources that I've chosen, and that helps me help students learn to cite that information. Have I done it for my husband's dinner? Not yet.
Yeah, I teach a science fiction class. In the Blackboard shelf of my class, in places where I've used AI, especially for graphics, I will cite that. I'm trying to be as transparent as I can in that class, because a lot of what we're asking our students to do is be transparent when they're using AI, and so I want to try and model that behavior. That's a thing I preach when I'm getting preachy on campus. I was doing that this morning, so it's still sort of have a preachy hangover. But there are also places where I don't cite it. If it's just an email that it helped me put together, or a letter of recommendation for somebody, that probably doesn't need to be cited as something that AI helped me write. And then I also, in my preaching moment today, said, hey, if you're embarrassed to say that you wrote this with AI, you probably shouldn't write it with AI.
That's the same.
Same? Okay, go ahead.
DeepSeek, so the new China AI. John, have you read the disclosures on that for us? Or can you give us
The question was, John, have you read the disclosures on
I haven't read the terms and conditions on it. I just wanted to see what it would do if I got it up and running. Then it asked for my Google account as a login, and I said, no. So I used a secondary Gmail account that wouldn't have any email in it, in case it got a hold of that. I used that to log in and was able to play around with it a little bit. Before I did anything serious with it, I would read those terms and conditions. With DeepSeek right now, I'm kind of waiting to see where some things shake out. It's obviously going to be the subject of a tug of war and trade war, stuff like that. That's going to be, OpenAI right now is saying that DeepSeek stole proprietary models and stuff like that.
That they stole first.
Yeah, that's fair. It's going to be a little bit, if it's true that it offers us the opportunity to do the same kinds of work that we do in ChatGPT, but at a much lower price point, requiring much less energy, much fewer servers and stuff like that. That's going to be devastating to our economy for a little while because of all the boom that the AI has been creating. And it could be something that is really democratizing. And at the same time, one of my past careers is as an open source web developer. I did a lot of work that way. I love the open source community. I love the idea of open source. DeepSeek has been released as open source. But the AIs at a certain point are very much black boxes. And so it's hard to know what's inside the darker corners of that code and what's going on in it. So I'm going to wait a little bit and see what the experts have to say about it before I invest too much of my own time in getting to know it.
Excellent. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you.
Okay.
Yes.
So one quick comment, and then I do have a question. I was thinking about the chat GPT and how you made the comment about the expert level. Well, I tell you, I was working on a MBA class, and I couldn't think of what the answer was to this question. So I'm like, oh, chat GPT. So I threw the question in, gave me the wrong answer. So thanks a lot, chat GPT.
Yeah, trust but verify.
Yes. But the question I had, I was thinking that I read the other day that you helped write those STEM-related books.
Yes.
I was wondering if you utilized AI at all during that whole process.
Yeah, so I definitely used it for brainstorming. That was the biggest thing that I used it for. So coming up with, or different ways of taking a sentence that I wrote in my Mandy voice, but I'm trying to relate it down to someone who's reading at a first grade level. So, taking maybe a word and saying, I know this word is not first grade level, what's another way of putting it? So phrases like that. I think it's utilizing it as a tool like that and not, but that's definitely something. Another thing is we, with the books, we have received some growth-minded seals. And so taking the definition of what that seal required for us to include in it, putting it in there and saying, give me, some ways that I could possibly achieve this within the book. So that were a couple of ways that I used it.
Kind of like an editor.
Yes, like an editor, like a second person to brainstorm. It was just making me faster and not waiting for somebody to get back to me within, days.
Excellent. Let's go this way. Like 2 more questions. Anybody? Wait, okay. Yeah, sir, go ahead. Yep.
You think you can continue with this trend when it comes over dependence on AI?
So the question is, if we can continue down with this trend, do you think it will have an over dependence on AI?
That is an excellent question. I think it's the same question we asked when the internet showed up. Are we going to be over-dependent on Google? How many of you Googled in the last 24 hours? Right? I think it becomes something we work with, not something that takes us over. It just becomes another one of those tools. But that's my perspective.
I would agree.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add is jobs may change, work may change in specific ways. It's not going to go away, and each one of these things also brings with it a bunch of new opportunities. I mean, 10 years ago, being an influencer wasn't a career. Being a cosplayer wasn't a career. Now people make money doing that. Really good livings, apparently. So there are opportunities that all of these things come that are the flip side of the things that we may stop doing.
Very good. One more, Grant, go ahead.
Do you think AI will make learning more individualized for the students?
Yes, I believe that's very possible. When you look at a classroom, let's say there's 30 kids in that room. Odds are you have 4 or 5 that are on individual learning plans, IEPs. You probably have a student who has trouble with ADHD. You've got another student who's on a gifted extent. So like we all come with different skill sets and learning differences. I think there's a struggle in some of that we think companies are going to build products of saying, well, if you answer this, then it's going to switch and be the teacher for you. So if I'm working on math and I say, hey, I don't understand 3 times 12, okay, let's take you down a level and adapt with you. We have to be careful, that is not the goal of AI. Companies are looking for capitalism to do that. Yay, capitalism, it works, right? Can it help me as an educator design an experience to meet the needs of all those children? 100%. And I don't think we ask that question enough, especially if I have students who are learning English for the first time, and I have students who are coming to school and I don't know if they've eaten in the last 24 to 48 hours, right? I can't meet the needs of every single child easily, but if I have a co-pilot to help me to say, all right, Snow, these are your students, and I can pop in there and like, here's my lesson, this is what I'm coming up with today. And I've got children who are learning English. How can I make this more visual so that they understand that? How do I look at it with a UDL approach? This is something we all need to remember. UDL, the Universal Design of Learning, and it's good for everyone. It's based on the universal design of architecture. Just when we walked up into this facility, you have a ramp. I think there's a ramp out there that we walked into. That's a universal thing for kids in strollers and dogs and whoever else. If I can design lessons that are UDL friendly, can I take the information and have it chunked down so they easily understand it? Yes. Can I use icons to say, here's step 1, and here's an icon to explain it? Yes. I do think this is an amazing opportunity for us to truly personalize learning.
Okay, so we're out of time, that's okay, but I would ask if you could have in 1 or 2 sentences something that you think is important for people to take away from this, either what you brought up, any aspect of it. So just go ahead, each one of you, just 1 or 2 sentences, something that you want to have as a takeaway.
I mean, what I would say really is be curious, explore, and read the terms and conditions.
I would say get out there and start playing. You're never going to learn how to do this. You're never going to know how to leverage it without getting in there and doing it yourself.
And my thought would be take your own expertise and work with the tool to see how it works with you and build a friendship.
Excellent. Can we give it up for this group?